He was the kind of man people relied on without ever really seeing. Not because he was invisible, but because he made himself easy to lean on. He answered messages quickly. He showed up on time. He remembered birthdays, deadlines, favors owed. He rarely said no, and when he did, he softened it with explanations, apologies, alternatives. Reliability had become his signature. It felt like identity. From the outside, his life looked steady. A respectable job, a tidy apartment, a calendar filled with obligations. Friends trusted him. Colleagues leaned on him. Family expected him. He carried it all without complaint, mistaking usefulness for purpose. He told himself he liked being dependable. That being needed meant being valued. And for a long time, that belief held. His days were carefully organized. Mornings began early, always earlier than necessary. Coffee brewed while emails were already being answered. He skimmed messages not with curiosity, but with readiness, prepared to adjust his plans before the day even began. Someone always needed something. He made room. At work, he was efficient and accommodating. He filled gaps others left behind. When projects stalled, he stayed late. When conflicts arose, he mediated. Praise came quietly, if at all, but he didn't chase it. Stability mattered more than recognition. He believed consistency would eventually be noticed. It rarely was. Evenings were often spent recovering rather than living. He scrolled absent-mindedly, ate meals that required little thought, fell asleep with the sense that the day had been productive but empty. Rest felt functional, not restorative. Relationships followed the same pattern. Friends called when they needed advice, help moving, someone to listen. He gave generously. He asked little. When conversations turned toward his own life, he redirected them with humor or reassurance. "I'm good," he'd say. And most of the time, he believed it. Romantic connections came and went, but none stayed long. Not because of conflict, but because of imbalance. He adapted too easily, adjusted too quickly, became what was needed instead of revealing what he wanted. Over time, partners drifted, not out of malice, but out of uncertainty. He was present, yet strangely absent. He noticed patterns, but dismissed them. Maybe he just hadn't met the right person. Maybe timing was off. Maybe this was adulthood. The realization didn't arrive dramatically. There was no argument, no betrayal, no collapse. It arrived quietly, on a day that looked like all the others. He had agreed to help 3 different people in the same evening, cancelled his own plans without thinking. As he stood alone in his kitchen, reheating food he no longer wanted, something felt wrong. Not painful, not urgent, just hollow. He asked himself a question he had never seriously considered. If no one needed me tonight, who would I be? The answer didn't come. That absence lingered. He began paying attention, not to others, but to himself. He noticed how often he agreed automatically, how rarely he paused to ask whether he wanted to, how discomfort rose the moment he considered disappointing someone. Saying yes had become reflex. Saying no felt like betrayal. He wasn't afraid of being alone. He was afraid of being unnecessary. That realization unsettled him more than any breakup ever had. He started small, not dramatically. He delayed responses instead of replying instantly. He declined invitations without explanations. He left work on time even when no one told him to. Each act felt uncomfortable, almost selfish. But beneath the discomfort was something unexpected. Relief. Space appeared. With it came unfamiliar emotions. Boredom. Restlessness. Curiosity. He didn't rush to fill them. He let evenings stretch. Took walks without destinations. Sat with silence instead of escaping it. In that space, memories surfaced. Moments where he had swallowed opinions. Chosen harmony over honesty. Made himself smaller to keep things running smoothly. None of it felt tragic, just cumulative. He realized he had spent years managing other people's comfort while neglecting his own presence. The shift wasn't loud. He didn't announce boundaries or reinvent himself overnight. He simply stopped over-explaining, stopped volunteering himself as the solution, stopped measuring his worth by usefulness. Some people noticed. A few pulled away. Others adjusted. The world didn't collapse. His body responded before his mind fully did. Sleep deepened. Shoulders relaxed. Mornings felt less rushed. For the first time in years, his calendar had open spaces that weren't immediately claimed. He began exploring interests without justification, reading without productivity goals, cooking meals slowly, exercising not to optimize, but to feel. He wasn't searching for passion, just presence. At work, his clarity improved. He spoke more directly, took responsibility only for what was actually his. Respect followed, not because he did more, but because he did less of what wasn't required. Relationships shifted too. Conversations became more balanced. Some connections faded, others deepened. He learned that being liked for availability wasn't the same as being known. There were moments of doubt, times when he wondered if he was becoming selfish, distant, less kind. But kindness returned in a different form, intentional, not automatic, chosen, not expected. One evening, months later, he noticed something simple. He had made plans with himself and kept them, and it felt satisfying. He hadn't become louder, or more assertive, or dramatically different. He had simply stopped disappearing. And in that quiet reclamation, he found something he hadn't known he'd been missing. Not approval, not validation, but authorship over his own life. For the first time, he wasn't just reliable. He was present.